On today's episode of Chicago Bears Now, I'm going to take a look at 10 left tackle options for the Chicago Bears for 2025 and beyond if Braxton Jones isn't that guy, because a lot of things to consider here. Braxton Jones just suffered a pretty serious injury. Now, it sounds like it wasn't as bad as it could have been, just a fractured fibula on initial testing. We're filming this Monday night, so possible we get some slight updates there, so keep an eye on the injury reports and the medical reports there if anything drops. He is out for the season, been placed on IR. If it's just the fractured fibula, the report is a 4-month recovery, so that's actually not too bad. I mean, he'd be back by OTAs. But it's not just that. It's that he's a good player, but not a great player. He's entering a contract year. I still think regardless of this injury, pursuing upgrades at left tackle, if they're available, was something you were always going to do if you're the Chicago Bears. Now, he's a good fallback option. If it doesn't work out for whatever reason, he can start for one more year, then you address it in 2026. But I do think the Bears should be proactive in looking at this position, and obviously the rest of the offensive line as well. But today's show, we're focusing on left tackle, given the injury news around Braxton Jones, and obviously that being the blindside position for Caleb Williams, who the Bears got to do a better job of protecting moving forward. So before we get to some of those options for the Chicago Bears, we'll look at 5 free agents and then 5 draft picks. You guys weigh in. Who should be the Bears' 2025 left tackle, or who do you think it'll be? Type BJ for Braxton Jones, or drop another name in the comments. Maybe it's someone in the draft. Maybe it's someone in free agency. If there's a trade idea you got out there, get your thoughts in the comments section down below. All right, free agents first. Ronnie Stanley, the 30-year-old for Baltimore, who's had an interesting several years here. Remember back 4 or 5 years ago when he was a stud, but then he got injured, and Orlando Brown played left tackle, but Brown wanted to stay at left tackle, and they opted to keep Ronnie Stanley, so they traded Brown to the Kansas City Chiefs. Stanley's been in and out of the lineup since then with some injuries, but this year he's been healthy, and he's played pretty well for Baltimore in his age 29 going into his 30-year-old season. Kind of crazy. He's already been in the league 9 years, but he's still relatively young at 30 years old. But there's no question there's injury concerns and an injury history here. Now, this year he's missed no games, so he's entering free agency at the right time. But 2020, missed 10 games. 21, 16 games. Missed 6 games in 22, missed 4 last year. So it's been trending in the right direction the last 3 seasons, but this is a guy that has a chance to miss time, like he just does. He has missed games in his career at a somewhat frequent rate. But when he's healthy, he's a good player. Like, he is an upgrade over Braxton Jones. He has a stronger anchor. He's a pretty good athlete as well. We know Braxton's a good athlete, but can get bull rushed against. Also, this would be an interesting option, like if you kept him on the roster, like, hey, he's an upgrade, but if Braxton has to step in and play, you feel very comfortable. Whereas right now, if Braxton gets hurt, then it's like Larry Borum or Karan Amagaji, and you're holding your breath every single play. If Braxton was your swing tackle, he'd be like one of the best ones in the league because he's been a 3-year starter. Okay, Alli Jackson. This guy's pretty interesting to me. The 26-year-old with the Rams, set to hit free agency. Now, again, some of these guys could get extended, could get re-signed before free agency even opens, so keep that in mind. But he's graded out really well the last couple of years, but especially this year for L.A. Classic Rams find, undrafted free agent out of Iowa, which I don't know how that's possible. They always have good offensive linemen. Not sure how he went undrafted. But if he hits the market, he'd be someone I'd be pretty interested in because he's 26. He's entering his physical prime as an NFL player, which is why I'd be pretty surprised if the Rams let him hit the market. They've had some offensive line issues this year with injuries and underperformers. He hasn't been one of them. He's been healthy and he's played well for the most part. So I can't imagine they'd let him hit the open market, but until they sign him, that's certainly an option. So if he's available, I think the Bears should be very, very tempted to throw some money there. Okay, Cam Robinson with the Vikings. He will 100% hit the open market because Christian Darrisaw, their franchise left tackle who they paid, is out for the season. He'll be back next year. They traded for Robinson from Jacksonville in the middle of the year to get through this season, but he will hit the open market. He's got some flaws. He's a good pass protector. He's not very good in the run game, so Something to consider there. Braxton's kind of the opposite. He's better in the run game, and he's kind of hit and miss as a pass protector, especially, again, like I said, as a bull rusher, which is why people always ask me, well, just kick Braxton inside. He's not the strongest offensive lineman. What do you have to be on the interior? You have to react quickly, and you have to be very physically strong. That's not a strength of his. So I think he's a tackle or a bust, unfortunately. But Cam Robinson, good player, not a great player. All things equal, I'd probably just keep Braxton Jones, if I'm being honest, because he's cheaper, and you could just finish out the last year of his contract. All right, a couple more free agents to talk about, then we'll shift to the draft. But first, Prize Picks is today's sponsor. You can turn $10 into $10,000 right now, as you can win up to 1,000 times your money on certain lineups right now. I had the worst year of my life in season-long fantasy football. That's why I'm all in on daily fantasy. I'm all in on Prize Picks. I can try different players every day. I was the idiot who drafted Christian McCaffrey, buried my season. Well, with Prize Picks, new lineups, new players every single day. Different sports available. You can mix up your sports within individual lineups. It's absolutely awesome. And we also have a deal for you as well. When you use our code CLNS at prizepicks.com/CLNS, you'll get a $50 bonus into your account when you play for just $5 initially. So you could just chase me on this two-player lineup. Caleb Williams more on his passing yards, Jackson Smith and Jigba to find the end zone. Doesn't matter if you win or lose. You're going to get a $50 bonus if you're a first-time customer. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS. It's fun. It's easy. It takes less than 90 seconds to create an account, less than 60 seconds to launch your first entry. And again, use our code to get that $50 bonus when you play for just $5. All right, Tyron Smith, 34 years old, injured again this year. Neck injury, that always, he's had back neck issues for a while now. Dallas eventually was like, we just got to move on. So I don't know how viable of an option this is. Again, this would probably be like a Braxton hedge situation. 1-year deal, Tyron's your starter. When he inevitably gets hurt, Braxton comes in and plays. He's still good when he's healthy. He's still an above-average left tackle. In his prime, he's one of the best I've ever seen. But clearly he's over the hill. Don't know if he even wants to keep playing, so that's a fair question as well. If he does, clearly a 1-year contract. Now, the benefit would be is A, wouldn't cost you that much. You could still keep Braxton as your swing guy there, and you could kind of just 1-2 punch that position, kind of like what the Jets have done with him in Olu Fashanu, to be honest. Very similar situation where, regardless of who plays, you at least have serviceable level play. I would rather find a long-term solution, but it's not a bad backup option. Okay, Jaylen Moore. He's an interesting case with the 49ers. They drafted him a few years ago, but he's been stuck behind Trent Williams for obvious reason. Trent Williams is awesome, and he can't play right tackle. He's only a left tackle. So it's kind of a tricky one where you bring him in knowing he can only play one position. He's never been a full-time starter. When he's filled in, he's played pretty well. Like right now, he's played the last 3 or 4 games in favor of Trent Williams. He's played pretty well. He's graded out well. He hasn't given up a sack this year. But that's a leap of faith to make him a full-time left tackle. So I think this would be more of like a, take a swing on an upside play and let him compete for a starting job. I don't think you could just enter the season with him as the starter. Like, at least with Braxton, you kind of know what he brings to the table on a week-to-week basis. With Jaylen Moore, it's a complete or at least a relative unknown if he's your 17-game starter. All right, coming up next, we get to the top draft options at left tackle. Some guys who I think have round 1 grades that we'll take a look at here in a few moments. But first, do not miss a moment of Bears content here on the channel. We're dropping videos every day. Most days we drop 2 videos. We go live multiple times per week, every Monday, Thursday, and game day. We'll still continue to go live twice a week during the offseason as well. We'll do some breaking news live shows also when, free agency gets here and all that stuff. So hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. We got you covered here on a daily basis. All right, let's talk draft now. Will Campbell out of LSU. He's obviously the hot name that everyone's talked about. I thought he actually played a little better in 2023. These were his 2024 PFF grades. LSU's offense kind of just became a mess this year. Their offensive line didn't seem to have cohesion. I don't think Campbell had his best collegiate season. He graded out better a year ago. And the question with him, and Dane Brugler has reported on this, NFL scouts, people in NFL circles, they don't know how long his arms are going to be. And typically the NFL standard is 33-inch arms or longer. Is he going to reach that threshold? We'll see. Now, there are exceptions. Rashawn Slater had shorter than 33-inch arms. He's an excellent tackle. Caleb McGarry is a really good player. He had shorter than 33-inch arms. It's not necessarily a done deal, but a lot of NFL scouts think his best position in the NFL might actually be guard. So, look, maybe you draft him, and if you keep Braxton, maybe he's your left guard for a year, and then in year 2 he kicks out the tackle. That could certainly be an option. If you really like the player, I don't think you hesitate to draft him, but I do think his position is still somewhat unknown for the NFL. Kelvin Banks Jr. Out of Texas, another player that some believe could play guard in the NFL. His arm length is probably in that average category as well. We'll see how they measure in once the NFL Combine gets here. I actually like him a little more than Campbell. He's improved every single year, where I thought Campbell took a slight step back this year. I thought he was pretty dominant against Clemson coming back from ankle injury. He played really well in the first round of the college football playoff. I think he's given up just the 1 sack this year. He's pretty steady. I like his athletic profile. I think I'm leaning Banks over Campbell. Now, I don't think either of these guys are just like generational, like this is Trent Williams coming out of college type of prospects, but both have versatility. Both should be able to kick inside if you can't play them at tackle or just don't want to for whatever reason. So I think they're really, really good prospects. I'm not sure they're Joe Alt as prospects, if that makes sense. Who do you guys think is the better offensive line prospect? Type WC for Will Campbell, KB for Kelvin Banks. Obviously, it's early in the process. We got to see how these guys do moving forward in the draft process. Keep an eye on Banks as Texas is still playing over the next few weeks. All right, Ariante Ursery out of Minnesota. This kid's pretty interesting. He's 6'6", 330, I believe, moves pretty well. His technique can be a little hit and miss, but he's a 3-year starter out of Minnesota. He's played a lot of football, and if you've ever watched Minnesota play, they punch you in the mouth up front, and he's a big part of that. His tape's a little inconsistent from what I've seen, but he's graded out well this year. He's improved every single year. I like the experience at left tackle, so he could be one of these guys that starts to turn some heads once you get closer and closer to April. Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. He probably falls back a little because he suffered the knee injury this year in October, has not returned, will not return this season. Unclear what the severity of that injury was, but you know, if it's a torn ACL, then he's not going to do any of the pre-draft stuff. So you got to kind of rely on the tape and the medical information that you have there. But when he was playing well. Multi-year starter at Ohio State, who typically has some good offensive line play. And then lastly, I think the fastest riser on this list is Josh Conerly Jr. out of Oregon. Probably entered the year as like a middle round guy, maybe even a day 3 pick. Has just gotten better and better this year. His tape's been really good at Oregon. Now, interestingly enough, he plays left tackle, but that actually hasn't been the blindside spot because Dylan Gabriel is a left-handed quarterback. I'm not sure that really matters, but something to consider, I guess, in the draft evaluation process. But he's been rising quickly. He's gone from middle round guy to first round potentially here in the last couple of months. So like Kelvin Banks, he's still playing. Keep an eye on Oregon's left tackle when they face Ohio State, who has multiple good pass rushers, by the way, Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau. So see how he holds up in the Rose Bowl here in about a week and a half. But a guy that could find himself hearing his name called in the first round. So there you have it. 5 free agents, 5 draft targets, some other draft guys that are interesting as well. Keep an eye on Wyatt Millam, the West Virginia tackle. Also, who do you guys want as the Bears left tackle in 25? Do you still want Braxton Jones? Do you want someone else? Maybe a name I mentioned or someone that I didn't? Let us know in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe. We will continue to bang out videos every single day. We'll work in some draft content as well. We've already put up a couple mock drafts, so go check those out on the channel. And we'll see you guys next time. Bear down.